So yeah, we're a bit ahead of schedule. I'm genuinely surprised to see Andrew here ahead of time. I had you pegged as the guy I was going to be sending texts to, going, "Where are you? Where are you? Where are you?" Yeah, I'm not sure why I put you three on the same panel. This is just not bad. This is like really, really bad.
I think it's because you wanted diversity, clearly.
Yeah, that's right.
Take the white male card.
Yeah. Look, one of you's got glasses, one of you's got no hair, and one of you's Australian. You know,
my
what more
goodness,
diversity do you need?
So we're covering all the bases of the white male spectrum.
So which one of you two is Australian, Andrew James? Because otherwise,
I'm just offended straight away, Richard. But
so you consider yourself still a Kiwi then, Richard?
Yes, I consider myself still a Kiwi.
Just checking. I mean, how long have you've been living in Australia? For quite a few years.
Yeah, 21 years, I think. So, like, anytime I question that, I just need to watch a sporting match between Australia and New Zealand. And even if I think I'm starting to shift to the canary yellow,
canary yellow. It's gold, mate. It's gold. It's gold. Deary me. Well, hopefully Annette will add some sense and sensibility to this discussion.
One can only hope. Either that, or she's seen the panel and run for the hills.
Yeah, I wouldn't blame her. Yeah. And so, how's everyone getting on? What's your day been up to? Anything exciting going on in your worlds?
A morning of hanging out with schools for me. It's been a good morning actually.
Nice. With your kids or through a working environment?
Bizarrely, most of my business is in the opposite side of the country to where I'm trying to generate business, which I guess is how it works sometimes. But mate, there's loads of schools. I'm over here at the Mount, which I've got no problem coming over to and living the lifestyle when the weather's good over here. But yeah, it's been a good morning actually. Just it's interesting. Schools over here are finally sort of the ball's kind of dropping in terms of finding some decent uniforms rather than cheap, nasty stuff. So it's been a good morning. And I'm currently sitting in a noisy school. So when the school bell goes off at 3:00, that's me tapping out.
Nice. And here we go. We have Annette joining us. Look at that. Bang on time.
Hello.
How's it going, Annette?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
How's your day been?
It's been pretty good so far. Yeah, we've had a good day. We've been having some good chats. I've been enjoying it. So, that's half the battle.
I'd like you to enjoy chatting, Tim.
I know. It's like a day of talking to people on the internet. It's pretty much what I do every day. But no, we've had I did a little cheeky kickoff session just to let people know what B Corp's all about if they're tuning in and don't know what B Corp is. We had a really cool panel with some women of impact, some really, really disturbing statistics around, particularly from Brianne, from formerly of Atique, now of Business But Better and Incredibles, about how basically women founder CEOs don't get any investment, even though they've actually got track record evidence showing that female founders are actually better than male founders in terms of long-term results, return on investment. So that was quite eye-opening. And we also learned about monkeys used as slave labor to make coconut-based products in Thailand. So we've covered quite a lot of ground already. So anything's, we're up for anything really in this session. So this session is all really focused on the way forward, which is the current or the theme of B Corp month, which is why we're doing today and which March is all about. But before we get into that, we'll just do a quick bit of the old creeping death. Introduce yourselves. So maybe we'll start with Annette. If you just want to say, who you are, where you're from, and that'll get started.
Okay, Annette Sharp from Intrepid Travel. So my role is Global Social Impact Manager based in Melbourne, but obviously have a view across the board. We are a B Corp, obviously, the world's largest travel B Corp. It's been, we're actually in our recertification year. So very, very immersed in B Corp at the moment.
Nice.
So looking forward to going forward.
Nice. And so for people who haven't heard of Intrepid Travel, who the two people who live under a rock that might not have heard of Intrepid Travel, what are you all about?
So we're a tour operator, but very community focused. So we started the business, when we say we, it wasn't me, but the business was started about 30 years ago and really focus on, immersing customers in authentic travel, visiting communities all around the world. I think we're in 127 countries. We've got 27 offices around the world. So quite a big organisation, but deals with small groups. So lots of small group travel.
Very cool. How about we mix it up by bringing one of the Kiwis in next? Let's go with James. James from Gemelli Consulting. G'day, mate. How's it going?
Good, very good. Good to be here. So Gemelli, I founded Gemelli 6-7 years ago. And it's been a fantastic ride through COVID and to where we are now. We're a small team and we provide advice to social enterprises, charitable trusts, churches, councils, organisations that are doing good from a social and environmental perspective. We help them make great investment decisions, really. So we provide financial and commercial advice. If someone's looking at building a community centre, we'll look at the capital costs, we'll forecast the revenues and the operating costs, see how it's going to stack up financially and commercially, do the same for social housing and a lot of commercial strategy for organisations that are doing epic work to make people's lives and the planet a lot better than they are currently.
Very cool. And just quietly, I know we're not supposed to mention numbers. Gemelli is currently the highest scoring B Corp in New Zealand. So, which, I know you weren't just chasing the points. Genuinely, you unlocked a ton of impact business models, which is proof that you are just an impact-led business. So yeah. Nice work on that.
Kia ora.
Richard, what have you got?
What have I got? So I just want to point out I am still a Kiwi, Tim. I've made a couple of references to Australians, but I'm also based in Melbourne on Bunurong country. So I've been over here for 21 years, and the last 12 of that I've been running a business called Talent Nation, which is one of the OG B Corps. So we're one of the first to certify across Aotearoa, New Zealand and Australia. And our focus is recruitment, so executive search and recruitment. Basically, all roles have a positive social or environmental impact. So the core of what we do is large listed companies or large privately owned companies. So putting in heads of sustainability, climate change, human rights. So people that are leading the impact from within. So that's about 70% of our business, and then 30% is working with not-for-profit, social enterprise, B Corps. And we channel the funds from our corporate clients into that impact space. So it's probably us in a nutshell, I reckon.
Very cool.
And I will just say, Annette, one of my team is heading off to Vietnam on Wednesday next week with Intrepid, and we're sick and tired of her bragging about her trip coming up. So it's with mixed emotion that I see you on this call. So there's a lot of jealousy.
Well, I'd also like to just say I'm also a New Zealander as well. So.
Oh wow! So we've got full. So you got, and then there's Andrew and I masquerading as Kiwis who are actually Poms. So like, what's going? Does anyone know what's going on in this show? No, least of all me.
Infiltrating.
And last but not least, Mr. Andrew Chambers.
Yep. Well, not a Kiwi, but a little bit of a weird background. So I was brought up in Hong Kong, and I'm the founder of Tsunami Sport. We're a 1-year-old B Corp as of Friday, which has gone very, very quickly, considering it felt like a lifetime to gain it, but it was totally worth it. So I'm the founder of Tsunami Sport, which started 20 years ago, a little bit by fluke. I'm not a textile expert by any means, but the nature of our business is basically producing sustainable uniforms through repurposed plastic waste, fishing lines, and discarded yarns. And from that, our main core of our business is producing sports, corporate, and school uniforms, and with, I guess, the objective of trying to put in place better practices, which has come through basically the early days of our business, which had no sort of sustainable agenda or goals, but through experience realized that our industry was not the best. So we've worked hard over this 20 years to change what we do, and in turn, hopefully influence those around us, which is how we became a B Corp. We are the first within our sort of niche market. And that is hopefully to try and drive change across all our competitors, which sounds strange, but we don't want to see it as a competitive advantage. We'd really like everyone to get on board. So, that's Tsunami Sport and me.
Very cool. So I might kick off with Richard, because as I was saying before you came into the room, we randomly bumped into each other in person for the first time about a month ago. But we originally did connect way back when I sort of discovered B Corp in 2014, 2015, and you were one of the first B Corps. And back then, it really was just kind of like, does anyone know what this thing's about? Like, how does this thing work? And I know we had a couple of phone calls back then because Zoom wasn't even a thing. Skype might have just been invented, I can't remember. But I know we had a couple of phone calls. But yeah, what was it like being at that forefront of the movement? Like, before we look into the future, like what was it like back in the early days?
Way back when, before electricity. It's come a long way over the decade. So we certified in 2014, so we hit 10 years this year, and it came about. So Danny Almagor, who was the founder of Small Giants, who brought B Lab to Australia and New Zealand, was presenting at a conference, and I just bumped into him in the line for the food at the break, and I was chatting to him about my business, what I wanted to do, trying to channel things into impact. And he said, you should become a B Corp. And I'd heard of this thing called B Corps in the States, but didn't think they were here. And he's like, no, we're bringing it across. We're going to get it up and running, and we're looking for early adopters to come in. So the initial phases it was a bit of the Wild West, trying to create local sourcing policies and various policies that no one had any idea of. So it was really just trying to fly the plane as you were building it, or build the plane as you were flying it, I think is more accurate. But it was interesting, those first stages, because it was a really collaborative environment. People were in it for the right reasons, but it was very much, it was a passion project. People saw that there was a way to connect with your tribe and people that thought the same way, and felt that you could actually have a successful business that delivered impact, rather than them being mutually exclusive. So I guess we've seen it come from a group of, there were 42 founding B Corps, through to 800 today. But we've really seen the businesses evolve as well and become more commercial, and we've seen sustainability become anchored within the business model. And I guess more broadly, outside of the B Corp sector, we've seen that with sustainability and ESG, where it is part of a business strategy now, and organisations are having to really lift their capability around this space. So I think what we've seen with B Corp, we're seeing mirrored right across the board, across all organisations. Nice.
And how about you, Annette? Because Intrepid was pretty early on in the piece. And I can't remember who it was, one of your colleagues the other day. We did the session with Paul from Rotorua Canopy Tours, and just listening to the backstory about where Intrepid came from. Like you, like the company was kind of already thinking like a B Corp before B Corp was there. So yeah, maybe if you can just fill us in on a bit about how Intrepid got to the B Corp party and what it means to you.
Yeah, so Intrepid has always been a purpose-driven company, very strong belief in being able to marry purpose and profit. As I said, we're very steeped in community anyway. We had tried to take an industry leadership role around sustainability. So yeah, you're absolutely right. We were doing a lot of the work. but we didn't really have a framework for it. So this is, I think we're onto our third certification now. So we first certified in 2018, I think. And it's tricky for a business like ours because we are global. It's hard. Like, we don't score high on the B Corp scale because we have 7 or 8 different kind of regional areas that we have to get assessed, and they all have different levels of legislative requirements. But it's been a really, really good discipline for us to try and bring everybody up to the same standard, which is, I guess, one of the benefits of B Corp for an organisation like Intrepid. So we improved our score by about 10 points, I think, last time we got accredited. But every single time we identify areas that we can make big improvements. So even though we were doing great things, there's still areas that we need to address and make improvements on, not only around the world, but certainly in head office as well. So one of the things that we identified last time was a lack of supplier transparency. So we have done quite a lot of work on that as a business, and that has brought about all sorts of benefits for us. So that's what I think the B Corp framework does for us, is it identifies areas that we're not strong on, and when we address them, it improves the whole business across the globe. So yes, we're on to, I think it's certification year this year, so lots of B Corp reporting.
Yeah, I think, Richard, you're in a research year as well, aren't you?
Yeah, we are. So I think we need to be in July, August. So we're a much smaller organisation, and certainly don't have the same challenges that Intrepid has across the breadth of the organisation. I think one of our learnings, and one thing that we're looking to do this year, is trying to use the B Corp framework to really target those areas. I think we've been guilty of relying on the fact that, we're a good business, we do lots of good things, but didn't really invest the time in, how do we shore up some of the areas? And so this year we are looking at, how do we unlock some of the areas within the impact assessment to, I guess, highlight the things that we do that we don't necessarily talk about.
Nice one. Yeah, I think that's one of the benefits in the first kickoff session. That's what I always talk about. It is an impact guide. It can, it shows you where you're not performing. But the challenge, and I think, Annette, as you've identified, big businesses, it's a challenge because you're in different jurisdictions, and it's tough to harmonize across a global company. For small companies, for you, Richard, or for myself, or James and Andrew, it's like finding the time, beyond business as usual, to actually look at making improvements when you're already meeting a pretty high standard anyway. So it's like, we're doing pretty good, but how do we get to that next level? The way forward, maybe. Andrew, what about you? You're a year into it. Relatively, I guess you and James both relatively new to the B Corp movement. But what have you noticed about B Corp in the year that you've been in it, or been a part of it, or been through the process?
I think probably selling it to my board was one of the hardest things. I've got some fairly finance or figure-driven individuals that sit on that board. So for them to sell my sort of therapeutic kind of dream and vision of how I want my business to look, and the sustainable side of it, is something, a bit of a balancing act for them. And the B Corp was something that I really drove, for them to understand what value I saw in it. And I think it became very apparent that they were probably right. I think if you were to go into a B Corp, I've really realized now, or seeking that certification, I think if you're going about it to try and build a new network and some new sales avenues, I think it's a fairly naive way of looking at it. I don't think it does, for me, it doesn't generate any new business. But But what it has done internally for us has been quite significant around accountability of our individual departments, the documentation of our governance. As a small company, you know, we're like, yeah, we do it. We say we do it, and we physically see those things that we say we do. However, you know, for example, if we were seeking investment or anything like that, that documentation and that validation of it is required. So it's been a bit of a growing up process for us, and I think the B Corp process itself and the year since, it's now made us realize, right, if we're going to do these things, like, we need to document them properly, validate them, and so forth. So it's been everything that I wanted it to be, in terms of, I guess, us growing up a little bit. And I think it's definitely done that. I certainly have zero regrets doing it. It's been fantastic. And a lot of our key projects moving forward into this year and the following year are actually all driven by us bettering our score. So it's given us some good accountability too.
Fantastic. And last but not least, James. Because how long are you? You're like 18 months certified now?
Yeah, right? Coming up there. Yeah.
There you go.
Oh no, I was going to say so many of the common threads have been set across the team. It's been, given that we're a relatively small organisation, it was quite a nice push to get us to actually formalise and document some of the things that we were doing already. So it helps you grow and sort of build that foundation of the business. It was, and it most importantly is, a really good framework to help us doing more good stuff and doing better, especially as we come up for recertification in the next couple of years and things like that. And it's from an external perspective, I totally agree with Andrew that it's definitely not a marketing tool. I don't think it's won us any more work or anything like that. But it's really easy to talk about how you care about the environment and you care about staff well-being and equality and stuff like that. But actually having a badge that formalizes that, I think it takes it out of your hands. It's not just nice chat. It's been independently verified. So those are probably the three main reasons, I think, all three of the drivers from there. I mean, it is a big time commitment for sure, and a lot of time and effort goes into it. But we flipped it on its head and used it effectively as a team building exercise. We had this amazing facilitator come in once a week for a couple of months and lead us through it, and we did it as a team, and it was actually really neat to see. I guess the team really appreciated the openness and the transparency of going, cool, here's the salary multiplier that sits between those who's earning the least and those who's earning the most and things like that. And actually saying, hey, you're really passionate about battery recycling and how the office environment can be more sustainable in our day-to-day operations. Why don't you pick up this thread, Joe, and run with that? So it was really neat to build the team and to get buy-in into the business as well through that process to, I guess, bring some more benefit to the time cost that it does require.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, as we said in our first kickoff session, there's overwhelming evidence from employees, customers, investors, and suppliers that if you nail the B Corp journey, you're going to get a benefit from it. And I think the internal one is often the most overlooked one, where someone will just go and do B Corp in a silo by themselves, and then it's like, oh, hey everyone, we're a B Corp, and I think you miss a massive trick if you don't bring the team on the journey. Annette, you have got global impact manager or social impact manager in your title, so you might know a thing or two about making impact, which is really what B Corp's kind of all about. So, top tips for people on impact, because I think we've mentioned in a couple of the sessions so far, not every B Corp necessarily has an impact at the core of their business model. They might be approaching B Corp by saying, well, we just want to demonstrate that we're not a bad business. We want to demonstrate that we think we're better than business as usual, but they wouldn't necessarily have a core impact in what they do. So, what does impact mean to you, and maybe some top tips for people to think about being more impactful in the future?
Yeah, impact's a really interesting concept because lots of people are very good at measuring inputs, and Intrepid is very good at measuring inputs. We are getting better at measuring outputs, and then impact is the next level. So for us, it's we're going through the process of bettering ourselves. My role's new, so I've only been in Intrepid for 15 months. So there's been a lot of work around looking at impact frameworks. So we're still not there. We're still moving along. My recommendation would be to start very simple. Start with an individual action that you do, and being able to measure that. It's all about measurement. It's all about proving what you're doing, proving that you're having benefit down the track, not just to your business. And it's about looking at the beneficiaries and how their lives are changing, how if you've got climate actions in place, how are things improving from an environmental point of view. If you're working with charities, not how much money you give the charity, not how many people they serve, but going further down that line. And sometimes you have to take those people on that journey. So if you're working with, for example, a charity, you actually have to take that charity on the journey. So you have to sit down with them and help them determine their impact, because a lot of them just talk about numbers. They actually don't talk about, behaviour change or attitude change or anything like that. So, yeah, my recommendation is to start small and to hold people's hands as you look at the difference that your business is helping other people make.
Nice. I might get back to James for this one, because, like I say, you don't get 143 something points on the B Corp assessment without unlocking quite a few impact business models, which you did. And I think that the two big ones for me that you got was the design to give. So you give away 100%, is it 100% of your profits to causes each year? And then the core of your business model is serving socially impactful projects by helping them raise money. So in some ways, it almost felt like you had the cheat code baked into your business, because you were designed from day one just to do as much good as possible. Any sort of thoughts or reflections on that before I pick on Andrew and Richard?
No, I mean, it did sort of feel a bit like, man, this is cheesy, but it did feel a bit like coming home, like we're around our people. And the framework was sort of really designed to capture, I guess, a business like ours. We exist to do good, and we sort of turn down work for organisations that are just out to make a buck. Primarily, there's lots of great consultancies that can help businesses on a pure commercial and pure financial basis, and we're more than happy to leave that to them. Our lane is helping organisations that want to do good in a financially and commercially sustainable way. So you're right, we've got that lane, and right from the start, we just had this clear delineation in our mind that actually the better the business went, the more we should be able to give. And so from that, we set ourselves a salary that, my wife and I need to live on each year, and that looks after us, which we're really privileged and fortunate to have. And then the better the business does and the more work the team does, then the more we can give away to our amazing partners, Kids Can and Habitat for Humanity in Nepal. So it's really neat from that perspective, and like the whole B Corp journey, it's really great for team morale as well. So yeah, both of those did slot in nicely. We did have one bit that didn't slot in nicely with the B Corp framework, just warts and all, because they were trying to point to the impact that we unlock, and obviously we don't directly build social housing or anything like that. We give advice around how to do that process well, and we came unstuck with our assessor, because sometimes we advise people not to go ahead with a social housing project because it's not going to be financially feasible. So we actually tell them, stop, this thing isn't going to work as it's currently let out. So don't go and get consent and take your architects on the journey. And the B Corp people couldn't get their head around that, going, hang on, but you're actually stopping impact happening. And we go, well, we're technically not. But yeah, so it's definitely got some quirks in it, but it's a really neat framework to put the business through.
Yeah, it's not a silver bullet. It's not perfect. There's always people who go, oh, but that's not fair because in our country that doesn't happen. But I just think I've just put in a link to, because we've done a podcast with you as well. I just thought, it's a really refreshing way for a business owner to look at their business, to go, well, actually, what do I need for me to be doing okay? And beyond that, the rest is frivolous. I don't need any more than that. And I was listening to a podcast yesterday on Stoicism, and that was one of the key tenets of the Stoics was, have enough. You don't need more than enough. And so what is enough for you? And I think, you're leading by example, doing that. Richard, how has impact changed for you over the decades? Or has it been fixed, unchanging?
Yeah, I was worried you were going to ask me a question about that. So I should have known that you would. So impact's a really interesting one for us as an organisation, and I think that it's something that we discuss internally quite a lot, because I guess we have our partners that we work with, and One Girl is our charity partner, and they do incredible work in Sierra Leone and Uganda, and then doing some work in the Pacific more recently. So basically providing education to girls. It's the number one way to fight climate change, is to educate girls, because then that has knock-on effects around family planning and women-owned businesses. But so that's something that I guess we resonate with. But the reality is that the greatest impact that we have is around the work that we do on a daily basis through recruitment, by putting the right people into organisations. Because if someone is channeling funds into or the funds of a listed entity into impact, that's far greater than the small amount that we contribute. So where we struggle is how do we tie what we do to the actual impact that we're having, but not do it in a way that looks like marketing. Because as soon as you start to talk about that, then it feels like, well, we don't want to mention anything about that, because it feels like we're trying to get a soundbite that we can use as marketing. So you end up with conflict internally around, well, okay, how much do you talk about it, but in reality, how do you measure it as well? And so Annette's comment around measurement, I think is really important. And we've seen the impact measurement piece become a lot more sophisticated over the last 10 years. I think a lot of it has been almost gut feel earlier on, and now it feels like it is becoming more sophisticated, and you can tie things to genuine impact. It is becoming a lot more commercial as well. Unfortunately, money is the universal language across the world, and the benefit of that is that we are able to see social and environmental impact being translated into a commercial outcome, and that means it's no longer philanthropy or charity. It's like, well, this is just a part of doing business, is that you need to protect the environment. And we're seeing that with disclosures coming down around climate reporting, nature and biodiversity reporting as well, and that's been driven by the finance sector. So I think impact has definitely grown up over the last decade.
Yeah. I feel like I'm the same here. Impact measurement, outcome measurement is something that we haven't really ever done at Grow Good. And it's something, so stand by, James and Andrew, you're going to be getting some surveys coming your way in the near future, because we want to work out whether we help people get B Corp certified. Well, does that make them a better business? Well, we don't know. We know anecdotally, and we hear, we've interviewed Jamie on the podcast, and, talk to Andrew every now and then, and other clients go, we definitely feel like B Corp's help. It's like, well, we need to get some data on that. Do you understand more about sustainability now you've become a B Corp? Have you made more impact now that you're a B Corp? So we're as guilty as, I think quite often with service-based companies, it's harder because it is less tangible. Whereas maybe So Andrew, I'll sort of loop you in here. Nice segue there. You know, you sell a physical product, and you know that each item of the product that you're making is a more impactful product, you know, than someone could have made or bought. So it's maybe more obvious and linear that, you know, we sell more units, better outcome. But yeah, how do you approach impact? Because again, you're a bit similar to James in that, you know, your whole business was founded around an idea of, I want to solve a problem, rather than maybe you know, particularly Richard or I, where it's kind of like, hey, we're not evil people, we're in business, we want to do better, or we found this framework that sounds cool, let's kind of like slowly, you know, turn our boat around. Yeah. So what does impact mean for you and the team at Tsunami?
Within our particular market, it's about actually making people realize there is a problem. So that sort of the impact for us has always been around the education, I guess, of our end user, so our customers. And where we sort of see and measure our action is actually the behavior of our competition. You know, we were the only brand probably in the market producing recycled plastic, PET fabrics and products into our market probably 5-6 years ago. Now I would say most of our major competition is offering a like for like type of product in only some, you know, sort of niche segments of their product range, and in some cases all of it. So I think our impact is everything we wanted to. I think we would be incredibly arrogant to think that we as an individual apparel company could change our industry and have a significant impact on the environment. We simply can't. So actually it's a real weird one, because we want to be an example to be followed. And it's probably an area that makes us the most nervous, because there are companies out there that do what we do with a significantly bigger marketing budget. But I guess the thing for us, you know, the fact that I'm currently sitting in a school and I spent my morning at 2 other schools is around that education and having that impact, I guess, with that, you know, yeah, I guess, you know, we're not naive enough to think that we're sort of shaping our future customers, because we found 10, 15 years ago, we had a solution to a problem that no one knew we had, or knew was coming. And therefore the decision makers within schools and corporates and those sort of types of sports organizations, those decision makers didn't see our unique selling point as important, and therefore actually we created something that no one really cared about or really wanted. So and actually we used to play down our sustainable message, because we sort of got perceived as a bit of tree huggers and you know, a bit bothering people around the environment side of stuff. So seeing our market now, where we sit in schools because they've come to us because we produce things sustainably, we package better, or we produce better, I think is that impact. Does it have a direct effect on our bottom line as a business? A little bit, because now people are asking the right questions and have the expectations that you'd hope they would have had 15 years ago. So I think that education piece is kind of our biggest impact. And that's kind of supported by, I guess, our industry in itself, because they're reacting off the back of what customers are now demanding. And ultimately they're the bosses. They drive us to do and deliver things that they, the consumer, want. So that's been our biggest thing. It makes me the most nervous too, because like I say, we probably have a pretty minute budget compared to some of our competition. And that's, again, another reason why B Corp was so important, because to say that we meet these standards, and you know, we just touched on it before, and I wrote down my notes, like we scored the lowest in what we thought would be our biggest strength, which is sustainability, which was a tough one to swallow, which makes me optimistic about when we go around and have to redo our certification. But that was a difficult one to swallow, because that was where we really thought we excelled and where we had our biggest impact. But then at the same time, looking at silver linings, we did really positively on our supply chain and our governance with our suppliers and those relationships, which was, I guess, the silver lining to the disappointment of not being recognized the way we'd like to have been around that sustainable piece. Nice.
Yeah, I think that's a cool sentiment that you've got. You know, you've made impact when you see change in your industry, and it's that classic. You know, if you're competing against your competitors, that's not purpose. If you're competing against the bigger challenge, and your bigger challenge is better, better sporting equipment for people, that's a really cool metric. But like you say, it's tough in, as Richard mentioned, we're currently in a business world where you've got to pay your mortgage, I've got to pay my mortgage. I kind of need to get some money from someone for me to do that. But at the same time, I do want to see some change in the world. So how do you see, I guess, open question to the room, like how do you see the future moving more into like looking to the future part of, this way forward? How do we jump that transition? Because like in an ideal world, sure, there's a bunch of other people that do B Corp consulting, but I've got to pay my mortgage next month, so I kind of need some clients. So whilst I want everyone else to do really, really well, I also kind of need a few clients for me so that I can pay the bills. So how do you see that becoming a thing? Like, can we ever get to a point of a truly purpose-driven economy where everyone's doing well, or is there still always going to be this underlying competition where someone has to win and lose? How do we solve that one? Who's going to chew on that question to start with? Jamie's going for it. You're the numbers guy. I knew you'd have a solution. You've probably got it on a spreadsheet and mapped out already.
I was just going to say, I think the answer to that question is at the bottom of the second bottle of Pinot, Tim. It's a very ethereal question. And I don't have the answer to that. I mean, we all talk the talk on collaboration and partnering and growing the sector and things like that. But at the end of the day, there are commercial realities as well. And the most sustainable business is one that sticks around in order to unlock sustainability over a long period of time. So financial sustainability is key as well. So I don't know. Is there an element of trusting the universe and just going, hey, I'm a good person trying to do good stuff. Good stuff's going to come my way. I can collaborate and work with other people. I think that's probably one of our ethoses that we live by, and it's worked really well for us for the last 7 years. Trying to collaborate and not stressing out too much about whether enough work's going to come in. Haven't got a definitive answer on that one, but I think it's somewhere in the ether in that space there.
Well, if you're going to get the Pinot to chew on that question, then you need to go to Deep Down Wines, B Corp certified Pinot Noir from Pete and Clive. Get amongst it. The more you drink, the better the world gets. I have it on good authority. I don't know, Richard, Annette, what are your thoughts? I love, again, I like Andrew's energy and vibe in general anyway. So when he finally gets to Christchurch and comes to have a cup with me, it'll be even better. How have each of you rationalized, because obviously travel in particular, maybe we'll go to Annette, like travel in particular, and it's very hard. People are throwing rocks at the very idea of travel, and there are some fundamentalist people who are like, the fact that you even look at a plane would possibly be enough that you get struck off being a B Corp. You've got a lot to unbundle, maybe looking into the future.
Travel is particularly tricky. I think the way we look at it is trying to make an impact on our customers and making the customers be the one that drives the industry change. I don't think our competitors would look at us and go, we want to be like Intrepid. I think our business model is different. But I think you're right that the forms of transport that are used in travel are massive contributors to climate change. We go, well, we don't put people on planes, and we're trying to reduce our flights in our itineraries. But the fact is that people need to get to our destinations. So, and we'll try and, push, aviation fuel reform as much as we can. But we have to, within what we deliver, we have to be the best that we can be, and we attract people that want to travel sustainably, and we want to influence those people to make demands if they travel again with somebody else to have an assessment process that puts sustainability at the forefront. As I said, we believe that purpose and profit can exist together, and we it's probably what James was saying, the more successful you are, the more you can invest in purpose-driven activities. So that's our goal is tied, our purpose goal is tied to our profit goal. And that's, I guess, as I said, we just try and improve our product as much as we can and influence our customers as much as we can.
Nice.
Yeah, I think if I can just chime in, people will travel, like, you know, and that's one thing that we've got to remember. And, you know, B Corp conference was a couple of weeks ago. Fantastic. Everyone in the room aligned, and lots of hugging going on. But I think we've got to remember that is just a segment of the world. So people will travel. You know, we have some people will go, oh, I could never work for a fossil fuel company, and then they get in their car and they drive home. So I think we've got to be really careful about being too elitist or I don't know, almost evangelical around how we do things, because we've got to remember that we're trying to move the rest of the world. If we just focus on B Corps and go, yeah, we're going to become better and you know, we're only shifting the dial a little bit. So what we need to be doing is actually lifting the whole of the whole of the world up. And you know, I think we've got to be really careful about how we focus on things. And to James's comment, you know, for a business to be sustainable, it needs to be financially sustainable. You know, and I've seen a lot of not-for-profits doing incredible things, and then they run out of funding, and all of their programs fall over. So I think we can't get away from the fact that you need to make sure that you have a good business model first and foremost if you're going to be a B Corp, because that will help you drive impact.
100%. Yeah, one of my favorite expressions, you know, picking up on your, you know, I don't want to work for a fossil fuel company, but I'm going to go home, drive my car and possibly put my gas oven on and all the rest of it. You know, don't forget that the person who invented the light pole did so under candlelight. And I think that there are people who want us to be at this new utopia, but it's not linear, it's not overnight, it's not transparent. It's going to be messy and complicated and dirty, and there's going to be backward steps and forward steps. And as I've said many times today, and I keep saying it, we're at 0.01% of the global business community is currently a B Corp. And I think that is, like you say, that's the real risk, is it just becomes this really, really tiny sliver of business world who are, look at us, you know, we're holier than thou, or we've done everything. But actually the needle doesn't get moved. Yeah. So
what is the emissions profile of a candle, Tim? Have you got that?
I've no idea, but I'm sure someone out there has got that for us. We've got a comment. Yeah, I'm sure someone has. We've got a comment or a question here from Carla. In terms of tracking impact, we see the emergence and evolution of impact accounting being a fundamental part of this. Yes. So latest podcast that I recorded last week was with Ant Rohan from Fairground Accounting. Yeah, there's definitely growing awareness around the, you know, financial services accounting industry about how accountants could be the people that save us. I will personally be very, very disappointed if it's the accountants that save us rather than the sales and marketing people. I just feel fundamentally like we should be the ones who take the glory, not the accountants. But you know, whatever it takes, we are all inclusive. Yeah, it's you know, impact measurement and reporting. I definitely see that becoming a bigger thing in the future. You know, for B Corps and just other businesses, like, you know, Richard, you've already mentioned larger companies having to do mandatory disclosure now. That's going to start, you know, we're already seeing that filter down to smaller companies where it's like, hey, you've supplied us one candle this year. We now need to know what your impact is as a company. So we're coming into the final straight. So one question that I think would be interesting to look as we think about into the future. So I've mentioned the N word a couple of times today, the Nespresso word. That certainly put cats in amongst pigeons. And again, you know, some B Corps ripping up their certificates saying, well, if they can be a B Corp, I'm not interested. So who gets to decide what companies even get to be in existence in the future, let alone be a B Corp? You know, does Nespresso, does Nestle have a right to exist? Or are there some companies that we just think actually your very existence is against what we need? And who ultimately becomes the arbiter of that conversation? Who wants to chew on that one? Andrew's going for it.
I'll jump in. And just going, I mean, I think on that last point, I think we've got a sort of a bit of a saying in the office around, like, we need everybody trying their best imperfectly rather than a few people doing it perfectly. And I think I have no problem with anybody becoming a B Corp if they're striving to do so. And I think the beauty of B Corp was that I think it exposed so many different layers of our business that some of them we hadn't even considered, and we achieved scores on that would just happen to come about through, I guess, being good people. And then there was other scores that we got which were disappointingly low, where we actually thought we were doing something really well and we weren't. So I think someone at Nestle, for me, or not Nespresso, sorry, not Nestle, for me, are an example to those big corporations, is that at the end of the day, that they are the influencing sort of, that they can change an entire market, unlike someone like myself as a small business. So if they can prove that they can have best practices in certain areas, and they probably scored very high somewhere and not so high somewhere else, I think that speaks volumes in terms of getting all size organizations behind this movement, in terms of people operating in a better manner. And I think that's a big problem. It's a daunting thing. And it's interesting, even in-house, we had issues around, or conflict around, people being concerned that their particular department was going to be exposed to not doing as best as they could. And I see it very differently as I see it. Therefore, what we know we're not doing, we can now work towards. So I think when those big companies get involved, I mean, it was a nightmare for us as a small company to do. I think it speaks volumes of them as a global sized business to be able to document and fulfill the standards that B Corp set, which I thought were phenomenally high in some areas. So I think, all to them, good on them. It's I think it validates even more so the achievements of the people on this call and the many other B Corps that have been awarded it.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree. I think we need people in the tent rather than outside the tent. You look at Cadbury, who've got their own fair trade scheme that they've done internally. Well, I'm sure it was just as hard to achieve that as it was to get the external validation through an independent. I'm sure. But we don't know, do we? So anyone else want to have a go at who gets to exist as a business in the future?
I think I'd like to just say, from a B Corp point of view, it's about setting a baseline and trying to improve it. Every single certification. Otherwise, you just get one certification and off you go. So I think that's for someone like Nespresso, it's about saying, we do well in some areas, we do poorly in some areas, and they're the ones that we have to start working on. So if they use the framework to highlight where they can change their business, then I support that. As I said, we found lots of holes when we did ours, and that's what we're focusing on to improve our score year on year. Certification upon certification. So I'm all for them coming in as well. Yeah, nice one.
I think just you comment on who gets to decide. I mean, I think Nespresso is a great example. The consumer is deciding who's a valid business or not. If people are buying the pods and are using them, then if they opt out of that market, someone else will fill the space. So I think there's some elements where you might not personally agree with the model, but it's there and it's in the market. So if you can approve it, if you can lift it, maybe exit it at some point because you can develop something that removes that problem, then absolutely. But I think it's the consumer for one, and we always look at who's going to shape the future. Is it the market? Is it government regulation? And so we see a range of different things at play, trying to lift things. I'm not sure if everyone can be a B Corp, but then I think the process will screen out the ones that really shouldn't be in there in the first place because their business model is not authentic. Put it that way.
Yeah, and I think I think you're right. The market will be, but then sometimes you look at what people buy and you go, really, have you really done, have you really thought that through? And I guess you're then into a whole world of, well, is there free will? Should people be told what they can and can't buy? Does it come down to government? You could argue, certainly if you're in America, well, it's my right if I want to smoke cigarettes, even if I know that they're going to kill me. It's my right. I'm going to do that. Whereas you look at a country like New Zealand, where it's like, no, actually, well, up until recently, it's like, no, we want to actually ban that because we just know it's bad for you. So, yeah, I guess it's a really complicated argument. As to who gets to choose what any of us do at that high level. But I think, again, and for me, it is grey and nuanced, because you could, again, I'll sort of pick on Intrepid. People go, we should ban travel. It's destroying the planet. Well, yeah, but what about the social impact of people going and seeing new cultures and communities and having their horizons expanded, or, families bonding and coming together on a trip, or, wanting to go back and trace your roots and connect more to your ancestry. And like, there's so many positive benefits. Do we throw the baby out with the bathwater? And I think that's where sometimes the sort of the business for good world can get a little bit fundamentalist on, here's a line, good and bad, whereas actually it's way more nuanced than that. That's my sort of thoughts on it. So looking to the future, we have possibly got new standards coming for B Corp. Where do you see the future of B Corp, other than maybe new standards? What does the future for B Corp look like for all of you? Who wants to jump in on that one? James hasn't had a chat for a while. Maybe we'll pick on James.
I don't know, from the internal perspective, what that looks like. I'd love to. I mean, I'm a data geek at the end of the day, so I'd love to see, and thanks, Carla, for posting that link around the rise of impact accounting, and we've been on the SROI bandwagon for a while, and it's very much in its infancy, so it's up for critique and debate, and that's awesome. But let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater on that. So I think putting more evidence around impact is definitely one thing that we definitely are passionate about, because then it's demonstrable, then it can be held up for account and rigor and things like that, and good benchmarks to improve. So I think that's from an internal perspective in terms of the process. I think from an external perspective, I mean, B Corp for us, I think, is only going to grow in importance across society as you've got these amazing 20-somethings and late teens coming through that are more concerned with the people on the planet and what's happening to them. And I think having organisations that are verified as giving a damn about those things is going to make it really easy for those people to make decisions about where they invest the next 5 years of their life. Given that more and more people are concerned about those things, having a system that is easier and easier for them to screen it, and have an organisation that's really clear about what it values and is really clear about how it lives out those values, I think is super exciting. So it's going to put B Corps at an amazing advantage, and I would see that, that bell curve. We're dealing with that 0.01 that we've talked about at the start, but I definitely see it creeping down towards the middle of the bell curve, which is super exciting.
Totally. And we're definitely seeing that. We're getting people reaching out to us who literally, I will say to them, if I was going to write a list of the top 1,000 companies that I thought would ring me and say, hey, we're interested in B Corp, you possibly wouldn't have even made the top 10,000, but you're ringing, and that's cool. So yeah, we're definitely seeing all sorts of wild and wacky industries and companies that even 2 years ago I would have said, nah, I don't see any of them even vaguely ever interested in B Corp. So yeah, don't judge a horse don't judge a book by its cover, or a horse by its cover for that matter. Don't know where horse came from. I was thinking why the long face. Anyway, who's next? Who's got some thoughts on the future of where this thing's going?
I'd like to see B Corp have a bit more of a profile. I think you're absolutely right. It's a great roadmap for customers to be able to make choices. But we've done some brand work recently where the awareness of B Corp is really low, and so we don't use it as a marketing tool. But for customers to know that there is that system for choice, probably needs a little bit more heightening. As a B Corp, hanging out with other B Corps, going to B Corp conferences, having regular monthly meetings with B Corp about social impact stuff is great. But I think ultimately this is about the customers being able to make informed decisions, and so I'd probably like to see that elevate.
Yeah, definitely. It's the perennial challenge of a not-for-profit led certification organisation that's not exactly awash in cash, being able to do marketing. But I will poke some of the big B Corps, like certainly here on TV in New Zealand, there's adverts from Co-op Bank, Kiwi Bank, Kathmandu, a couple of other big ones, and there's never a B Corp logo at the end of it. And I appreciate that TV time is, it's precious, but surely even just a little proudly B Corp certified, on the back of the ad couldn't take up too much time or space. But
just to add to that as well, so I'm just going to see if Richard agrees with me, but I feel like the B Corp movement in New Zealand is probably a little bit stronger than in Australia. I don't know if you feel the same way.
I don't know. I think there's pockets of activity. So I think you see it in various cities. I don't know. I think across the board there's still a lot of work to do. I think your comment around the logo at the end, Tim, is probably the marketing and comms team looking at where they're going to get cut through, and those ads are there to generate customers. And if customers don't know what B Corp is, then it's potentially distracting for them. So you see that, and the internal tension that you have around, the job of this ad is to get more people on board, not necessarily to build awareness for B Corp, and that's always been a challenge. But we do have larger organisations on board now, so there is more momentum. I think there's 800 B Corps across the region. Globally, the movement's growing. The UK is going gangbusters at the moment, so it is building. Probably taking longer than we'd hoped. But it's also looking at what is the role that it plays. So for someone like us, we're a recruitment company, so having an external certification that says we've got decent ethics and morals is that's where the value is for us, because anyone that's dealt with recruiters can probably question that claim. But I think as well, there's a role for the B Corp community in actually growing things. So going full circle back on your comment there, Tim, actually having organisations lean in and go, okay, well, how do we build this? And collectively, with the number of employees that we're engaged, the number of customers that we're touching across all the organisations, you can actually spread the word a lot more strongly.
Yeah, 100%. I think it is a bit of a circular argument. It's like, use it as a competitive advantage to create awareness about the thing that you should be really proud about, telling the story. I mean, I do know, having spoken to a couple of the bigger companies, that quite often the person that's run the certification might not ever actually be in the same room as the person who runs marketing and comms. And it's sometimes just a case of trying to connect that dot internally within a company to go, did you even know that? Or quite often they're outsourcing to an external brand agency maybe who would have no awareness of any of the B Corp stuff. But if we're good for time, if any of you have to leave on the dot at 3:30, we do have a question. Nadia is definitely getting the Chocolate Fish Award for the most number of questions and commentary, so good on you, Nadia. So she's asked a question: do you think the rise of green hushing, so that is not telling the story about the good that you're doing, is going to limit the awareness of B Corp, especially if companies don't want their ESG to seem like it's just been done for marketing reasons? So if any of you have to go, feel free to depart. But if you good to stick around for a couple more minutes and answer this one, more than welcome to stick around.
I'd love to jump in on this one. If anything, I don't think it will. I think it will only add to the credibility of B Corp. The biggest issue with green hushing is probably how it's being labelled. If you look at the claims that have been made and the cases that have been raised, it's basically false and misleading conduct that's happening. It's fraud, but it's being labelled as green hush or green washing, and it's creating fear across organisations. And the main thing is that they've got to be careful about what they're saying or the statements that they're saying. With B Corps, you've got to go through your certification process, and it's measured, so you've got something that sits in behind it. it's not a statement. So if anything, I think it would probably play into B Corp's favour around having something credible that you can actually link your comms to.
I agree. Anyone else? Agree. Yeah, I think the green hushing thing is a really interesting thing. It's something that we've just actually added to our offer this year because we're pretty good at closing the loop on the internal engagement, but we've just added now a storytelling workshop for people who've done the B Corp journey to actually work out how to pull the story of the B Corp journey so you can effectively communicate it, because there's typically so much gold that people pick up from going through the journey, and it's been independently verified, it's been audited, it's not a marketing led claim. And I think, like I say, that's the difference is when it's a marketing led claim about stuff that we think we're doing, if it's unfounded, then yeah, you deserve to have your wrist slapped. But if you're genuinely doing it, I mentioned it earlier on. There's Kantar do a report, the Better Futures report here in New Zealand, and every year, basically, it says consumers want to support brands that are doing good, but they either can't find them or they don't believe the claims of the companies that are making the claims. So to me, it just seems like there's a massive opportunity to close this awareness gap, particularly around B Corp, and nail the green hushing versus greenwashing story, which would hopefully drive some of that change. But what do I know? Not much most days. Cool. We are at time. If any of you have to jump off, that's cool. If you want to stick around, if there's any other final points you want to get across before you jump off, now's your time. If not, we can close up on time.
I think you need to finish with another statement, Tim, rather than what do I know? Not much to close it.
That's all right. We got a couple of hours to go yet. I'm sure there'll be a
maybe edit that piece out.
We can ask his wife what she thinks about how much Tim knows. That's always a good barometer.
Yeah, let's not go down there between my wife and my daughter. And yeah, you know nothing, Jon Snow. Yeah. Any final thoughts from you, amazing people doing amazing things, or are we all done?
I would just like to wish Richard's staff member a fantastic time in Vietnam. You wait till she gets back, then you'll be sick of hearing about it.
I think I might need to work from home for a couple of weeks.
Go and work from Vietnam.
That would be nice. It would be very nice. Great. Look, thanks, Tim. I think in terms of the shape, I think B Corp's in great shape at the moment. I think I'm, as I say, coming off the back of the conference a couple of weeks ago. Just a lot of energy, lots of new faces in the room, some amazing businesses as well, and amazing people doing great things and really working to strike that balance between having a financially viable, sustainable business, but actually channeling your efforts into something that has a positive impact.
Nice. Seems like a good a place as any to end it. Thank you for all the work that you're doing. I always like to give a particular big shout out to people like you, Richards, who like you were involved with this where there was no gain for you. You know, it was like you just. I think the original Bees, like literally, we just, not that I'm saying the rest of you got into this for nefarious reasons, but it's like you were just stupidly ahead of the curve. I know a few other people in the same boat. It's like, I just think that there's something in that, I guess, for all the Kiwis, which is kind of all of us or none of us, I can't keep up. It's that sort of depth of manner. It's like there was a real sincerity to how you started to be involved in the movement really early on in the piece. So yeah, I think special thanks to Richard and I think recognition that there is this sort of new guard joining the movement and re-energizing us old duffers who've been around the block 3 or 4 times and they're like, oh my gosh, like could you just get on this B Corp train, please, people? So yeah, it is exciting to see this new crop of businesses. And I guess to Richard and Annette, good luck with your research. It's always a bit of fun. And yeah, Andrew and James, thank you for all the cool work you do. James, no pressure, looking at beating your score from last time, and looking forward to that cup of tea in Christchurch, Andrew, when you get down here again. So Nadia, definitely award for most comments today.
Congrats to Nadia.
Great discussion. We need to try and track you down, Nadia, in the real world. I don't know where you're based. send me a message on LinkedIn or drop me an email. We'll have a couple, or we'll certainly, I don't know, get you something to reward your tenacity. And
Is Nadia the only person listening?
No, we've quite possibly. No, we've got a few people.
My wife's on.
No, my wife's definitely. I sent her the link. I sent my wife the LinkedIn thing to say, "Hey, come and join this event," and she was like, "Oh, I thought you were just telling me that you weren't going to be home." I'm like, no, it was an invite for you to come and hang out and do some cool stuff with me. But that's all. Cool. Anyway, so yeah, thank you, team.
Thanks for all you've done too, Tim.
Oh, nothing. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Tim.
Finishing on those statements, Tim.
Well, green hushing. Look, we've got two people at least. Nice one, show.
Oh.
Thanks for your discussion. There we go. These aren't bots that I made last night. I can assure you.
Excellent. All right. Thanks,
Thanks, guys.
everyone.
Catch you.
Catch you later. Cool, look at that. They've all removed themselves from the stream. There we go. And we'll bring Tam in real quick and just say hi. So, yeah.
That was good, wasn't it? That was so interesting. Some really good
cool
points.
stuff. Yeah.
Some really good points made by those very clever people.
Yeah, and I know Richard's a very humble guy, but genuinely, guys like him and Steve Arder from B Corp Protect, if it wasn't for them, there wouldn't be a B Corp movement today. So I just think they need the recognition, and I think perhaps Steve's had some recognition. I don't know whether Richard gets recognition that he deserves. I just generally don't know. Look at that, and we've also got Carla. She's like, no, I'm here and have been all day. Go, Carla.
Carla and Nadia, chocolate fish.
We will see if we can make that happen.